Hello my friends, welcome back to another video, or if you're new here, welcome in. My name is Ian with Out of This World Reader, and today's video is going to be my July reading TBR. It's going to be pretty large. I'm packing in a ton of books because I've just been wanting to read everything on my shelves just out of nowhere. I think these summer months always, I just really want to just read a ton more, especially here in Colorado. It really starts to get pretty hot in the afternoons. And I don't like the heat, so I'm just gonna stay inside and read all day. But I've got quite a few different books that I really need to go over, and they'll be just like books that I'm planning on reading for kind of reading discussions and groups. But there's also a bunch of books that I've been hoping to get to for just some time now, and it's just got a good mix of mostly fantasy and sci-fi. But I also included one book of kind of a literacy fiction book, so we'll see what this month brings. But before we do get in, please consider liking and subscribing so you never miss out on another adventure. And we're just going to go from the top down because it is a very extensive list, and we'll just dive right in. First off, we actually have a book that I've been hoping to get to for kind of my summer TBR. It's a little trilogy within Robin Hobb's kind of realm of the Elderlings that I've just heard nothing but praise about just all of her kind of bibliography within the realm of the Elderlings. So I'll be starting with Assassin's Apprentice, which is book one in the Farseer trilogy by Robin Hobb next month. I've just really been wanting to get into Robin Hobb because I've just heard great things about just her character work and just the trials and tribulations, just the kind of torture that she puts them through, like the emotional torture that she kind of just puts them in these different situations that kind of destroy them and destroy you as a reader. So I'm very excited to see how it all begins within Assassin's Apprentice. I've heard that you follow Fitz in this first book. He's kind of like the bastard son, and he's kind of been raised in a stable or something like that, and he's kind of been trained. He's going to be trained to become like the king's assassin. He's kind of got like this special magical ability that allows him to talk to animals. Also heard that there's an animal companion in this that sounds so cool as well. So just everything sounds so like intriguing, right up my alley. And I'm hoping that I do enjoy this because there's just a lot of other novels within the realm of the Elderlings that I really want to get to. So I'm really hoping that I enjoy this, and then I can continue on with the Live Ship Trader series as well. And then we have the Soul book that isn't sci-fi fantasy, and this is also one of the books on my summer TBR that I'm hoping to get to, and it is The Goldfinch by Donna Tartt. I've heard lots of things about the secret history, but I've heard kind of mixed feelings about The Goldfinch, so I'm really hoping to kind of begin with Donna Tartt here. This one was just on my shelves. It's kind of hidden away somewhere that I kind of discovered. I'm really hoping to kind of dive into this and really enjoy this so that I can get to the secret history, which is kind of like her dark academia novel. But this one, it's like a coming of age story following a young boy who kind of loses his mother, I believe, and it all kind of centers around this art piece, I believe, called like the Goldfinch, that he is kind of trying to steal. And I believe there's kind of like this special connection between this art piece and the boy and his mother, and he just kind of is dealing with the grief and loss of his mother, as well as kind of the aftermath, I believe, of kind of stealing this. So I'm very interested to see how Donna Tartt kind of takes this. It's a Pulitzer Prize winner, so I'm very curious to see whether I do enjoy this or not, and then I can dive into more of those award winners in the future. But we'll see how it goes in July. You'll notice that on this TBR there are several kind of smaller books that I'm hoping to get to as well, to squeeze in, kind of get us a little bit of palate cleansers between some large books. And this is the first of them, and it is Stardust by Neil Gaiman. I've always wanted to check out more by Neil Gaiman after absolutely loving the Sandman kind of comics. I love both the comics with the illustrations and everything, and then the audiobook kind of narrations by Audible. You got like a full cast, and I definitely recommend listening to it because it's absolutely outstanding. But Stardust has kind of been on my TBR for some time. I know there's a movie adaptation, and it sounds really cool because it's kind of like this impossible quest, I believe, where this boy is kind of trying to find kind of this fallen star. He's kind of in love with this one girl, and she kind of gives him this impossible quest to find this fallen star. and he sets out on the adventure to kind of figure out where it is and capture it. Once he gets there, he discovers that maybe it's not a fallen star. So I'm really hoping to kind of read this and then watch the adaptation. I might do kind of like a little review of a movie to adaptation. If you'd be interested in seeing that, please let me know. But I'm really hoping to enjoy this because there's a lot of novels within Neil Gaiman's kind of bibliography that sound so like right up my alley, and I'm really hoping to pick up Coraline in the fall for Halloween, Neverwhere. Just there's a ton that I really want to check out by him, so I'm hoping that this is the first step in the right direction for picking up more Neil Gaiman in the future. And it is finally time to start this legendary series, one of the pillars of fantasy, the genre and everything, by the granddaddy himself. And I will be picking up The Hobbit by J.R.R. Tolkien the next month. I'm so excited to finally pick this up. Like, this has been on my mind for several months now, and I've been kind of trying to clear off the other series so that I can finally jump into this, because it just like it gets my heart going just thinking about it. But I've heard that people do not like this as much because it's kind of like a middle grade or child. It kind of feels very childish. But I absolutely love middle grade, and I just love everything about that. So I'm really hoping that this is just as great. I've heard just his writing and his prose kind of might click, not click with a lot of people, and it's very descriptive, and he really dives into kind of the scenery and everything like that. I love that about books. So I'm really curious to see what Middle Earth is all about and what J.R.R. Tolkien kind of inspired, and how he's kind of just created a ton for the future and kind of set the standard for a lot to come, and just also to see how it's kind of diverged from there and how where we've come from there. So I have the whole movie. I have both the Hobbit trilogy movies and then the Lord of the Rings movies. So after I do finish this whole, I plan on binging all the movies. It's got a dragon in here, treasure, hobbits, dwarves. It's gonna be a blast. So I think I lied. I think there's only 2 short books on this TBR. And this one is also on my summer TBR. It's another, I believe it could be considered like a little novella. It's under 200 pages. And it is This Is How You Lose a Time War by Mal El Montar and Max Gladstone. Honestly, I have no idea what's going on in here other than it kind of entails 2 parallel universes, 2 agencies at war with each other, and you follow 2 agents within these kind of different agencies, and they start to, I believe, fall in love with each other across like this letter that they find and leave, but they're also kind of dealing with their duties to their agencies. So it sounds very interesting. I'm always a big fan of kind of parallel universes after picking up just Dark Matter by Blake Crouch. And if you have any other great recommendations, kind of parallel universes, let me know, because I'm always intrigued to pick up more by that. I believe the Space Between Worlds kind of involves parallel universes and stuff like that. So I'm hoping that this will be kind of like a little bit of a fast, quick read to kind of squeeze in between some other large books. And these next 2 books are actually audiobooks that I plan on picking up. They're kind of just a little bit of a reread to kind of refresh my memory before the second and the third and final book comes out for both these series. And this one is Flamefall by Rosaria Munda. This is the second book in the Aurelian cycle. I'm getting ready to start Fireborn, listening to that on Audible, or not Audible, but just an audiobook. And this one was like, it took a big step up from the second book, I thought, and it kind of introduced a lot to kind of come. But it also left off like on a giant cliffhanger, and there's a ton of stakes now within the series, and I'm very worried for my favorite characters to see how it kind of all ends in the third book, which comes out in August. So I've kind of been refreshing my memory and waiting for that third and final book. But this is just an absolutely, I love this kind of little YA series. It's one of my favorites. It centers around kind of Russian Revolution kind of mixed with dragons, kind of throw dragons into the mix, and I just love the characters and just the hardships that they have to face and the decisions, and seeing how they're kind of facing kind of all this as it comes to them. It was like, it's very heartbreaking for a YA series, and I'm sad to see it kind of end, because I always just want more within it, but I can't wait for that third and final book to come out. But if you haven't picked this up yet, I would definitely recommend. They're all kind of quick reads. You follow several different perspectives, or no, so you follow two, Annie and Lee in the first one, Fireborn, and then it kind of also introduces a new perspective into the second one. I'm have a feeling that there might be more in the third one, so if you haven't picked it up yet, it's perfect timing. You can just binge the whole series, and I believe there's like a read-along going on Elliot Brooks' channel. So if I can find it, I'll make sure to leave a link if you want to join with that. And that other one I'm actually already in the middle of, and it's just been a blast to dive back into this world. It was one of my favorite reads though a couple years ago, or last year I believe, and it is the Jasmine Throne by Tasa Shuri, which is the first book in the Burning Kingdoms, and the second book, The Olander Sword, comes out in August if everything hasn't changed, if nothing has changed. But this is like kind of like a Southeastern inspired fantasy, and I absolutely love this. This is also kind of like a little bit of a sapphic romance that was kind of introduced in the first book. It follows several different perspectives, and it's kind of like this empire that's kind of very brutal, and you follow these perspectives as they're trying to kind of work in the background, work in the shadows to kind of bring it down. I thought the magic was very interesting, but it's also kind of a little bit confusing. That's why I really need to reread it to kind of refresh my mind. But you also see like there's this like kind of like a dark forest element that we're introducing with like this rot, and there's just a lot going on within this, and I really enjoy it. Just the setting and everything about it. Like there's just a lot going on. And I'm very curious to see how the second book, or how the second book kind of turns out, because I'm not sure whether this is planned to be kind of like a trilogy or not, but I can't wait for the second book to come out. And the new release that I plan on doing kind of like a spoiler-free review for is probably my third most anticipated release for this year, and is the Stardust Thief by Chelsea Abdullah, and this is the first book in a new trilogy. And I'm currently reading and almost finished with The Empire of Gold by S.A. Chakraborty, which is another Middle Eastern inspired fantasy. And it has really inspired me to pick this up, because I just love everything about kind of just the David Bad trilogy and what it's got going for it. And this one is kind of very similar, but also very different. It's inspired by 1001 Nights. Kind of got Jinn and a kind of like a thief kind of merchant who, or like a con artist, not so much like a con artist, but I can't think of what she is exactly off the top of my head, but she kind of, a smuggler I think. She kind of smuggles like artifacts, and she has like a Jinn bodyguard, and she is kind of blackmailed into kind of doing something for this king. The son kind of comes along, and along the way as they're kind of trying to find this kind of artifact or magic, they discover an enemy, and it can kind of bring back magic and like oceans to the desert. So I can't wait to get into this. Like, this is another one similar to the Hobbit, where it's just kind of been on my mind, and I haven't heard much about it yet. I think the reviews are kind of mixed, but I have a feeling that most people have been enjoying this. So since I've kind of been enjoying the David Bad trilogy more with each book, I have a feeling that this one will be just as good and kind of be another favorite. Down to the last two, and this is another series that I've been absolutely loving it. I picked up the first book, The Blade itself, last month. Absolutely fascinating. I love the characters, the kind of dark humor that Joe Abercrombie kind of uses within the dialogue, everything about it I've just been enjoying. And so I'll be hoping to pick up Before They Are Hanged, which is the second book in the First Law trilogy. I can't wait to pick this up. I just love like the characters, and you almost like root for them even though they're absolutely terrible. Like Jezzel, he's an absolutely kind of dickhead. And then you have Plakta, who's kind of like he's a torturer. And he's not the best person, but I honestly feel bad for him because of the things he's kind of went through. And you follow Logan, who's like absolutely like very fascinating, because he's just like this warrior who kind of doesn't want to be a warrior anymore, but like his past kind of hangs on his shoulder, and he's kind of been kind of thrown back into what he's kind of been trying to avoid, I believe. So I'm just curious to see how the second book kind of progresses, because the first book kind of is all setting up everything, getting to know the characters in the world, and then at the end it kind of introduced where it's kind of coming, and it almost like introduced kind of like a little bit of a travel kind of story or something similar to that, and I'm very curious to see how the world will kind of expand within the second book. And you also, in the first book, you got some other perspectives along the way within kind of the crew of the named man within, I believe, like the North, kind of the Northmen, similar to that. And I'm very curious to see how their kind of path kind of progresses in the second book, as well as kind of where the main kind of perspectives go with this second book. And I can't wait to pick it up and then pick up that third and final book. And then I hope to do kind of just like a whole kind of series kind of review for this. Absolutely love this, and I can't wait to check out more by Joe Abercrombie in the future. And the last book within this very large TBR is one that I'm hoping to pick up for Theo at the Rekindled kind of readers kind of grimoire, his Discord channel. They're actually doing a read along, so I'll make sure to leave a link to his announcement video down below. But this one is Empire of Silence by Christopher Rocchio, which is the first book in the Sun Eater trilogy. I'm currently kind of taking a break between the Expanse series, and I'm hoping to pick this up and join along on the Discord channel. Like, this one has been very intriguing to me and caught my eye a while ago because of this cover. The cover, I think, is absolutely outstanding, but it sounded very similar to kind of the Expanse, where you follow this one, like, the protagonist is actually kind of like a villain, I believe, and he's kind of telling a story as how he's kind of destroyed everything and kind of brought order, but doing it in kind of like a shady way. And he's retelling a story, so I'm very curious to see how it all kind of starts within this first book. I've heard great things about Christopher Rocchio, his writing style, as well as kind of the plot of this first book, and I'm very curious to see how this progresses. I'm not sure how many books are planned in this, but I believe the new book is coming out before 2023. So they're doing like a whole read along for this whole series, I believe, and I can't wait to dive into this based on how much I've just loved The Expanse. It's actually got a quote on here from James S.A. Corey, so we'll see how it all goes next month. But that is TBR. We'll see how much I actually get to. I'm hoping, I actually think I should be able to get to all these. I don't know, I'm just already scatterbrained already, but that is going to be all for today's video. I really hope you enjoyed it, and I look forward to seeing you in the next adventure. But it is time for Ellie to come on here. First, wish you all to have a splendid day, but she also says that adventure is out there. So I'll catch you next time. Bye.